Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
You
Absolutely.
might need to mute everyone also. It might help for this, so if you want to.
Yes, I invite folks to mute. I'm sorry that I'm going to have to read this quickly again. Welcome to our Zoom meeting. The topic today is what future could be possible for our children if we respond together now with wisdom and deep compassion to the ecological changes in our world. So today we have two facilitators. We have Brother Fulfillment of Mindful Rebels. He will co-facilitate and he's an ordained monk in Thich Nhat Hanh's Order of Interbeing. He supports communities and friends active in resisting and responding to global climate crisis, and he's in the New York City area. Joining him is Irene Woodard, a Shambhala Family Camp parent and teacher, Shambhala Touching the Earth Collective co-founder, and fellow and vice chair of the Board of Directors of Green Faith. Our Sharing Wisdom calls create an opportunity to gather monthly in order to collectively contemplate the changing needs of families and children in our society within and beyond Shambhala. Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Nicole Wolf and I will be hosting this, mainly technically, and also doing a lot of speaking, reading, speaking. Okay, so I will create the context. That was the context, excuse me. And I want to now facilitate a Dharma talk between Brother Fulfillment and Irene Woodard on this topic. Woodard, excuse me, Irene Woodard.
Hey. Thanks, Nicole. And I think what Irene and I came up with is to have a few minutes of settling first. Would that be all right? Like meditative practice together. So I volunteered to guide that, and just for a few minutes, you know, maybe 5 to 7 minutes, maybe a little less. And instead of giving a lot of guidance, I want to just maybe set some intentions that we can use the time to connect to our experience. Sorry if there's noise coming over my channel. I'm visiting family friends. Oh, there's a lot of young kids also in this house right now. Just to noticing our experience in the present moment, allowing ourselves to feel the weight of our body and really connecting to our experience, connecting to the earth through contact, through our breath, through the movements of our body as we settle, really allowing and giving ourselves space to be as we really are, and just noticing the different elements. Some unpleasant elements are certainly there, always in our experience, and there's also more subtle elements and some pleasant elements. So just having some time to notice those in the realm of our sensations, our feelings, our emotional energies, and the different kinds of mental states and thoughts that are flowing through us, just to sort of have a chance to connect all of that. And yeah. So if you like, we can begin. Usually have a bell. Does anyone have a bell handy? I'm going to use my digital bell since we're doing a digital call.
I have a gong with me.
Do you have a bell right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. If you'd like to invite that, and then you can listen to that and just settle and have a few moments of silence, and I'll let you just gauge, maybe, Irene, how much is enough for us. Yeah, we can already start to feel the chair under us or whatever we're sitting on. Check into that, notice what the support's like, and we can use eyes open or eyes closed anytime. Not sure, how does that feel? Like people having a chance, noticing some settling happening in the body, hopefully, and just able to, hope you're able to connect a little bit and see what's alive for you. Might also check into your environment a little bit, seeing what you can notice in terms of sound and the quality of the space you're in. I always like to invite people to, especially since we're online, to look around the environment, the room, gives it a little more of a context. It's like a digital world plus real world. We can connect in, but great. Thanks for doing that. I want to turn it over to Irene.
Thank you, Brother Man. And thank you all for inviting me to be here today with you. I have to say congratulations on having this these meetings as part of the schedule of families in Shambhala. And for those who are not strictly part of the Shambhala community, that this type of setting, this type of having community is exactly what is needed right now. It's at this time of crisis, the coronavirus crisis that we're in. So the fact that this was scheduled is perfect, and just as it should be. When planning this conversation, I was thinking about trusting ourselves, and so the topic of this conversation is basically the same as what it was a week ago, though I have to say it feels heightened right now, more so, way more so. And yet it's the antidote is the same in terms of how do we behave. And resistance, I looked up in the dictionary, resistance is the refusal to accept or comply with something. And in some ways, sitting practice is that, I would say. It's sort of, it's refusal to comply with the way our culture is generally set up, that we're actually not doing something, we're sitting, we're just being with ourselves. So in some way, we're very prepared for this time of forced retreat that's happening globally. So sitting is an act of resistance itself. So this morning, I just wanted to talk, or this afternoon, I was just going to talk about 3 different aspects of the ground, path, and fruition of why we're here. Our ground is being present, and being present is something that we have cultivated in being practitioners, in sitting. And it doesn't really matter how much we've done that, but the fact that we've done that, we know what that is, to be present, and to practice that in meditation is we have learned to be present. We are continually learning to be present. And the path of this today, that talk is about looking and listening and communicating. And if we do that, we're basically showing our love to the situation. We're loving into the situation. And and we can trust ourselves. So the fruition of doing that is further trust in ourselves and in our lives and our experiences as parents. So as parents, you might already feel this, that as in some ways we are bodhisattvas. We could say that we're bodhisattvas, that other people do 3-year retreats, and we've signed on to at least 18 years of retreat, and of the retreat of being with our families and being responsible, very responsible to a certain group of people that are very, very close to us. And in regards to a journey that I took with my children, an actual resistance that I brought them on, the year 2000, there was something called the Million Mom March. It came a year after Columbine, and my son was 13 and my daughter was 9. And it was held on Mother's Day. And so I declared that this is what I wanted to do on Mother's Day. We lived on Long Island, and we were going to go to Washington, D.C. For the Million Mom March. And we woke up very early, caught a bus at a Jewish synagogue that was taking a whole lot of moms down, moms and children down. And we went back and forth in the same day on this bus. And I spoke to my children this week. Now my daughter's 28, my son is 32. And to see what they remembered of this resistance. And they both remembered it. So that's the good news, is that this was definitely, the other Mother's Day have come and gone, but that one they remember very clearly. They both remembered that Rosie O'Donnell spoke. They both remembered how early they had to get up that morning. They both remembered that my son was really angry and didn't want to do this, but he went along grumbly throughout the whole day. And he apologized this week for that. Sweet. And their memory about the gun part is interesting, because that's why we were going, right? Or that's what I thought was the reason we were going. My daughter remembers that there was a point on this Jumbotron that somebody was speaking and mentioned the shooting at the Empire State Building, and that at that point, I reminded my kids that we had been at the Empire State Building that day that the shooting had happened. We had left earlier, like an hour earlier, and we're fortunately not up there when it happened. And she said at that point, she said, Mom, you made it personal. You were talking about something that personally had happened to us that had to do with guns. My son also remembers that being spoken of there, and his memory about the guns was that he feels like, as a grumbly teenager, his recommendation is that he said, you can force a kid to go, he said, but you can't make them like it. So in that case, I did force them to go because it was Mother's Day. I did not force them usually to go to do things that I wanted to do that they didn't want to do. And his recommendation was to in the future, I guess he's about to have a kid himself. He said he would engage the child in making a poster, in making something that they could hold, that they would be a participant in this action, and also let them have their Walkman. Like he had his Discman, he said, with him that day. He said he thought that was a good thing, that I just let him do what he wanted to do. So I think the point about this taking kids to actions is basically bringing our children along with us, things that we feel are important. My parents brought me on a Vietnam march when I was a little girl. I distinctly remember walking across the George Washington Bridge and participating in that. But ultimately, as parents, we have to figure out on some level for ourselves what it is we're going to do, what's the right thing for our family. And we know our children the best. I was at the family camp in 2006 when that tornado happened. I don't know if you all heard, but there was this wind storm and a tornado that came through family camp, and the dining tent fell down within a few minutes due to this storm. And that we created, there was a t-shirt that was created, and here it is. Okay, you can see it, I think, right? And the words we used on the t-shirt, and we were very careful as parents about this, is, I experienced the love tornado, Carmichael Family Camp 2006. And we had a long discussion as parents about, we didn't want to use the word survive. We wanted to use the word experienced. We talked about love, that it was, that going through that experience as a whole community was a feeling of love. So using the right words is an act of resistance, I would say. Choosing words that are not part of the typical cultural words is an act of resistance. And we need to be careful about our words and be discerning about the words that we use in situations. Finally, I just wanted to, let's see how much more time I have. I'm going to quickly read you one more poem. And it's about labor. It's called Labor Pains. I am sick today, sick in my body, eyes wide open, silent. I lie in the bed of childbirth. Why do I, so used to the nearness of death, to pain and blood and screaming, now uncontrollably tremble with dread? A nice young doctor tried to comfort me and talked about the joy of giving birth. Since I know better than he about this matter, what good purpose can his prattle serve? Knowledge is not reality. Experience belongs to the past. Let those who lack immediacy be silent. Let observers be content to observe. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The point here is about we can't make our decisions simply based on knowledge. We can't make it simply based on our own experience. We actually have to be in the present moment. And that's our situation to celebrate. That it's, as parents, we just have to be in the moment, ultimately. And in all these situations, that can be scary and fabulous. So we trust ourselves. And then 2 more lines from Trungpa Rinpoche's poem, How to Be Old Shambhalians and Youthful Propagators of Shambhala. The people of Shambhala rejoice, learning that their children will pick up greater wisdom in the midst of short pine trees and rocks, weather-beaten from the ocean. So we can count on short pine trees and rocks and ocean to be the wonderful teachers to our children and to ourselves, that when in doubt, we can take a walk and be in nature, be with nature, be ourselves nature. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to having more conversation with all of you.
Would you be willing to read that last line, those couple lines one more time, Irene? I think it's really valuable.
The people of Shambhala rejoice, learning that their children will pick up greater wisdom in the midst of short pine trees and rocks, weather-beaten from the ocean.
I don't know, would it be all right if I haven't prepared as much, but we had talked about dialoguing a little bit, and I just wanted to say how much that last part of what you were sharing really resonates with me about the importance of being in the moment in our daily lives, moment to moment awareness. And I just, as you were sharing, I just got this image of also modeling that as a gift for our children too, maybe, that when we're sometimes uncomfortable, really confronting our discomfort in a vulnerable and honest way with what's happening, and not having to possibly be perfect or but to be a little, to model some of the maybe being both vulnerable and taking refuge, like in the earth or in natural spaces as a source of refuge. I think that kind of modeling and sharing that with young people is really, really precious. Also, in doing that, like when we go, I was thinking about what you were sharing about going to a march or a rally or some kind of act of resistance. Non-cooperating with harm is one way I thought of it, saying it, and giving kids, letting them create around it too, and maybe even finding ways that we can remind ourselves to connect to the natural world, even in moments like that. Like, I noticed for myself, one thing that was really important, it being at a couple of events with Extinction Rebellion, was like being arrested a couple of times. It was really valuable for me personally to have a sense of connection, like my feet on the ground and my breathing and looking at the sky to connect, to really be on the earth in that moment. So I don't know how maybe I'll just, there was something I really wanted to read. Maybe I'll read that and see where it lands. It's not exactly a dialogue, but maybe I'll just, this is from Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said, we need real awakening and enlightenment to change our way of thinking and seeing things. Rather than placing a price tag on forests and coral reefs, fundamental change can only happen if we fall back in love with the planet. We want to be connected. That is the meaning of love, to be one with. When you love someone, you want to say, I need you, I take refuge in you. You do anything for the benefit of the earth, and the earth will do anything for your well-being. I just thought it fit nicely into the lines that you shared, Irene, that being present and connecting and allowing our kids and ourselves that time to connect, I think it creates a bond of love that is very, it can move us to act the way the forces of love propel us to do courageous acts. I think that's another element that's been really important to me, thinking about like moral courage and the courage to do something. And I think that that kind of courage really comes from a place of deep love. So very valuable to be in. We can't cultivate that love without being in connection. We have to actually be there for it to grow. So those are my thoughts. I'll turn it back over to you. Maybe you want to say something to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to also open it for if we would want to break into smaller groups. I don't know
Yeah, we could.
if that's feels good, or keep it as a larger group. There is, how many of us? 3, 6, there's 9, 10, 11, looks like.
Would you like to try it? We could do groups of 3 and just have a couple minutes each, 2 minutes or so each.
Oh, good. Okay.
2, 3, yeah. So let me give a little instruction for that part. Is that all right, Nicole? So Nicole will split us into groups, and you'll pop into this breakout room, and then it may be 2 or it may be 3 people, but one person, well, I could say the person with, one person needs to start sharing. So the person with longer hair, it's a little often gender-based, but just to make it simple, sorry about that, can share first, and then you'll have to watch a little bit the time on your screen or whatever it is to just do 2 minutes and then switch. And I really like to motivate sharings with the words I feel to start, if that helps. Sometimes it really helps. So it's a practice of connecting a little bit more, you know, what's really alive in the present moment. I think along the lines of what Irene was saying, what's alive right now. So feelings in the body can often help with that. And it might be related to the present moment with the coronavirus of your family, how it is today or whatever. So shall we try that? Sound good? Any questions about that practice? 9 participants.
Sure. Is there a prompt? Is there a particular question around we might contemplate when we're sharing with one another?
Good question. Yeah, I think it was just following the theme of what we had been talking about, how we can bring elements of celebration into our celebration and connection. I think are really important themes there, as well as what would you say, Irene? And the resistance. Yeah, what would you say to that? Is that enough of information,
or perhaps, you know, what is our experiences in our family right now?
In the present,
of today, almost, you know, like what's our experience of being a family today this time of coronavirus, and how is it possible to celebrate? How will we celebrate?
Celebrate and maybe connect too. Would that be all right?
Good.
Great. Okay. So we got to be
Right.
clear enough. Thanks for that question.
Thanks.
How are you? How is that going, Nicole? Is it making sense?
Doing good. Yep. So, okay, I'm opening up the rooms. There's 4 breakout rooms.
Good.
Okay. Oh, fun. Do I keep recording? Or do I pause the recording?
might not be able to be heard.
Are we alone? You and I are
No.
alone, I think.
Oh, we didn't get assigned a room. Okay.
I guess
That's okay.
it's interesting. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's mostly 2 people in a room.
I must have to pause it, I would think.
My brother and
Yeah, how
Irene
come
know
we
each other
weren't?
pretty well, but don't enjoy Laura.
Adam and Tracy, great. Mark and another woman and another.
Well, how are you feeling today, baby? And
Yeah, I know.
the longer hair. Yeah, how do you feel?
Should I just pause? Sorry, should I pause the recording? I feel a little nervous because I'm the tech person. That's how I feel right now. But
Okay.
I think I should pause it. I'm
Okay.
gonna just do it, right? Okay. Welcome everyone back.
Yeah.
Did that feel like enough time that we could join together again?
It was short, but it worked. It's good.
Good. I didn't realize I could join a group until after, so my husband and I had a good share. I feel we had our own mini group. Okay. Would anyone feel like they want to share?
Where do you?
Oh, good. Okay. I see that there's a few rooms still in session, and they have about 15 seconds.
This one. What was the other one? The other one's up. Sorry.
I just wanted to apologize that I'm logged in as MLA meeting. My name is Julie, and I'm in New York. I have to do something to my Zoom settings so that my name comes up rather than whatever. I'm sorry about that. But I had a very nice talk with Mark, who is also here in my neighborhood. But this is so interesting to be on a call like this and to feel this, this group society that's all over, and that we can I still feel connected. I'm glad that we can see each other. Anyway, Mark and I had a very good talk, and I don't know how New York centric it was, or even being in the same neighborhood, but yeah, this is a very weird time that we're in, but also a time to take opportunity to experience what's going on with the world and to resist. Like we were saying, it's a beautiful day here in New York, and after I make lunch after this call for my family, we're going to go for a walk. I've decided that. So we're going to go outside. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought I thought from the talk we had earlier, I agree that kind of that resistance is celebration, that idea of, we're trying to be safe and keep others safe by being inside. But I think that going out into nature is going to be an important part of this. And I also thought doing this is important. And I agreed with Irene that this was kind of a magical thing to have had planned already. So thank you.
Wonderful. Would anyone else like to share about their small group or anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I was sharing with Emily that in my community, Columbus, Ohio, someone started a Facebook page that's about, really supporting the unmet needs and making offerings in the community. And when it comes to just the sense of celebration, of really coming together and becoming joyful in a time of challenge, finding this joy by being together and by responding to each other's needs is very, very beautiful. Like in just a few days, I think hundreds of people have joined this Facebook page. And the way that you join is you fill out a survey and you just say what you need or what you want to offer. And then people are just making these incredibly joyful offerings. Like I have a huge amount of pot roast I would like to feed somebody who's hungry, or I have, toilet paper, or I have, somebody needed hand sanitizer because she's going to work as a social worker today. And like 5 people offered her their hand sanitizer, and just really sweet. And a woman who has a little baby and couldn't get formula. And people were offering to drive to our house and drop this off. And so it's just this sense of really coming together, like a crisis actually creating an opportunity for real care real deep, profound connection and awareness of just, you know, like this inquiry into what's needed, you know, what's needed, and how do I respond to that, and who do I care about, and that feels very vivid. It feels very vivid.
Yes, I
Yeah.
had a similar experience here with a platform that is a neighborhood platform, and the university's closed. Some university students offered help in any way that folks might need help, whether grocery shopping or childcare or anything. I was able to make some connections. I know some folks that need some help, some assistance. So I was putting people together yesterday, and yeah, it really brings out often the best compassion, the most, you know, deep compassion that we already feel and carry with us, I feel, but it's a call to action, isn't it? And this just feels so relevant, like Irene had said before, and brother fulfillment, that it is very much a mirror of the climate crisis that we're in. And here we get it's kind of like a test run or some kind of absurd thing like that, where we can really see how people can rise up. People do rise up if you give them the chance.
Hi everyone. Sorry I disappeared. My internet, our power went out. So.
Well, welcome back, Brother Man. We were just sharing what had come up on some of the short, on some of our breakout groups. If you would like to share anything, or anyone else would like to share something, then I'm going to be talking about our next Zoom date, I suppose, as it's getting closer to here in Boulder, 11 o'clock.
I guess I have a question, and maybe this is just new for me, and it's maybe a common expression, but I loved what Irene said. Be ourselves nature. Like, rather than going to be in nature, but be ourselves nature. Is that a common expression now, or? I just thought that was beautiful.
I had the opportunity to be at an Indigenous and religious leaders climate crisis retreat this past September, and I was profoundly moved and touched by the language and of experiencing ourselves as nature. We are, and so I believe that it came out of that, my experience in touching that more deeply in that during that retreat.
Thank you. And is there anything that you recommend that we can look at and read to experience those kind of words and language more?
Two thoughts there. Certainly Thich Nhat Hanh's writing has a lot of that, and what's very interesting about Indigenous tradition is that it's an oral tradition. So like looking for something is like, doesn't it, like there's which is really great, which is it's like we have to resist like going to a book and actually come into ourselves.
Yeah, I really like that, Irene. Finding that connection within is a lot. I think that's really valuable. And now is actually, I think of it as the opportunity that things have really slowed down. Work, school, there's like these open spaces, and it might be an invitation for us to go and have more time in the natural, to really, or by the ocean with our families, if we can do that, manage that. I think that would be beautiful. The book that comes to my mind is Love Letter to the Earth. That's by Thich Nhat Hanh, and Braiding Sweetgrass by, there's an audio book, because it's more of like what you were saying, the oral tradition. It's very important to listen to that book, I think.
Excuse me, Brother Man, could you please
Robin Wall
could you
Kimmerer.
put those
But I also did, yeah. Oh yeah, should I just, we have email threads, right? We can
yes.
email those out.
You could also
Or,
put them in the chat box, because
you want me to type it in?
you're going in and out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the audio is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had to connect on my phone. But let me type it in. Let me type it in.
Great. That would be wonderful. And Irene, there's also a question on the chat box. If you click on the chat, there is a question about the poem that you read and asking for the title of it.
Oh, sure.
Speaking of referencing books, referencing words, the written word.
Could I share one thing? I know it's already the time I'm supposed to be up, but this is like a verse that I have been sharing with people.
Sure. You are, oops, you're going in and out this a little
Maybe
bit.
if you turn off your video, Brother Fulfillment, then maybe your internet won't be as
maybe that's
taxed.
not a good. Okay.
Oh, here's. Adam, would you like to share something?
I basically just wanted to share how neat this is and good, and it's nice to have sangha, and yeah, this is and I of course I really enjoyed the sentences by Trungpa Rinpoche of how important nature is and that it's always around.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. My internet hasn't been cooperating very well, but I managed to get it back.
I'm typing those lines into the chat right now.
Well, thank you, Irene.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's really powerful.
And just to let everybody know, you can save your chat by clicking those three little dots in the corner.
Oh, thank you.
So before we end the call,
Yep.
you can save it there. So you were gonna.
Do you want me to say that? I just don't want to go over too much, but I could take a minute.
Yeah, and you're actually clear now. So
Yeah, I reconnected, the internet came back on so I could stop using my phone, but because the power is back. Okay, so this is something I wrote this is like kind of trying to really tap in. I did it after a retreat that was a Joanna Macy retreat, work that reconnects and give me a lot of energy, but it's just this call to action a little bit. It starts, dear friends, we hold in our hearts and hands, our minds and bodies, an extraordinary power, the power of vision and of choice. The world we have is our choice. We have not only the power to say yes and the power to say no, but the power to dream another world of possibility. We can say yes to the path of injustice, exploitation, extraction, and harm, or we can say no and choose something else. And it's quite long, but it ends with this idea of we can meet with our communities, put all of our time and energy into it, building community with connection, kindness, and celebration. That's the only way will succeed is if we're together. And then we can, so that we can collectively work towards the kind of world that we want to share with our children. And I think it just is also what I was saying in our little breakout room, that now is a time when there's so many different wise movements, Shambhala families, the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition, like spiritual groups. There's the UCC, United Church of Christ, I know is very active. There's the Poor People's Campaign, the Bernie Revolution. All these groups are really wanting to help wake up the world. And I think Green Faith, if we can use this time and our connection, like our online networks, to build a movement, that we can actually probably generate a lot of power. We were planning that for Earth Day, but it got canceled. But the network is there. The network is the power, the power is in the network, is what I would say. Thanks for letting me go over. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. Oops. Yes. Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for participating. It was a joy to see us come together on this topic on our monthly Zoom conversations. Our next Zoom date for these open meetings is April 11th, the same time. So we would like to invite young people who are engaged in climate action to our next call. If anyone would like to explore who to invite or what we'd like most to hear from them on April 11th, just please stay on the call after I officially stop recording it. So I'm going to close the public portion of this call. It's going to be ending the video, and participants can leave at this point, and host, that's me, I'll remain for some participants' conversation about the future topic and future call. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.